Welcome to the latest in our series of TopMedTalks 2. In these podcasts, the TopMedTalk team is in conversation with global thought leaders in perioperative care. TopMedTalk.
Hello, I'm Desiree Chappell, and this is TopMedTalk. I'm here with Monty Mythen, Editor-in-Chief of TopMedTalk. Hello, Monty. How are you?
I'm great, Desiree. Thank you.
Good. And we have one of our friends of the TopMedTalk family, Dr. Elena Koepke. She's an anesthesiologist at the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida. She's also the assistant professor at USF, University of South Florida. Elena, was last time that you were sitting down with us, but you were in a fellowship, right?
Yes, it was a fellowship with some faculty days at Duke. I was one of the inaugural perioperative medicine fellows there.
So you're one of the first grads, right?
Yes, first grad in that type of perioperative medicine fellowship in the United States, really.
Yeah.
Previously, a lot of them were based on business, and now it's kind of moving towards the perioperative quality and outcomes issues more so.
Yeah, and how to kind of use that clinically and in practice and not just the business aspect of it.
I think that fellowship is unique because it has some degree of partnership with our institution, University College
It's
London.
modeled after the University College London Perioperative Medicine Fellowship.
So just to do a bit of advertising for the fringe benefits of being a Duke UCL fellow. You've been to London a few times?
You can't underestimate that benefit. Just learning from that network of people, being able to participate in the MSc, or if you any of the various levels.
Program?
It is an online master's program, and we did get to go to London for the EPBOM meetings, as well as the cardiopulmonary exercise testing courses. Really just a wealth of information to tap into that we wouldn't have had otherwise here in the States.
Now we heard
a
lot about CPET today.
We have.
So it looks as though we reached a tipping point today from the METS trial, where there seemed to be quite a big thumbs up for the fact that CPET has quite a lot to offer. You must be one of the very few CPET aware trained individuals in the United States of America.
That's true. I think the pulmonary critical care fellows, that route in ICU, some of them are taught to read it, different reasons, but there's very not many of us. So it would be nice to be able to utilize that as some of our institutions start to accept that as part of the preoperative process.
And you went to the course in London. I've just tweeted that they're doing the 20th course. That's how long.
Is it the 20th?
It's the 20th.
I didn't know
this year, the 20th CPET Poets course.
Yes.
And was that how long did that take?
That was taught by the wonderful Dr. Denny Levitt, and it just took a few days.
Yeah.
And it is intensive and definitely some new skill to get used to, but I found it very useful, and honestly I would go again just to refresh myself.
But it's not complicated, it's user-friendly. Yeah?
Well, as anesthesia providers in the broadest sense, we've got the heads up that we kind of know the gases in and out bit and the alveolar exchanges, and we've got the idea of the flow lung
physiology.
Yeah, so we're kind of well ahead from that perspective. But, I've been around it for a long time. Really, you have to do and or see a lot before you... So you can be didactically taught. I think it's a bit like echo or anything like that. You can be didactically taught, but then you need to get a whole load under your belt.
Gotcha.
To really start to look at the 9-panel plot and see it like an EKG.
And there were people there that were going right from that course into leading that CPET initiative at their institutions. So, because there is many few experts around in it.
Yeah.
So it was very useful.
Wow, that's cool. We're doing one with John Whittle is going to be talking about CPET at the EBPOM.
In Dallas?
Dallas.
There's an introduction to CPET now, which is, when it started off in the UK, it was the sort of half-day workshop introduction to CPET. Come along and see one and get over your fear of what it might be like. The analogies again then with the early days of echo. Mm-hmm. I've seen cardiologists going around with echo. Could I touch an echo machine? Well, we've got over that fear of it now.
Yeah.
So the introduction is very much come and see a test.
Yeah.
And it's just cool.
Yeah. I want to do it.
And the patients get it. The patients really get it, because if you do a dobutamine stress echo on a patient, they kind of, I don't really get that.
Yeah.
Stick them on an exercise bike.
Boom. And
I remember when we were the early days of it, that people would come up to you and say, "Hey, doc, I'm fitter than I thought I was."
Yeah.
Or Dad's not quite as fit as we thought he was.
Yeah.
So it's very, very tangible.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting whenever they were talking about CPET is, and Dominda kind of briefly touched on it, but it's like what to do with the results and how do you manage, what do you do with it? And we talk a lot about like shared decision making, and I know when someone on TopMedTalks shared a story about after their CPET test, they were able to make a decision not to have surgery. So it was kind of an indication of that. And so I think that's one of the things that we're not talking a lot about yet.
I think it definitely informs shared decision making. Mm-hmm. There are some interventions, whether it be starting drugs, stopping drugs, lifestyle changes that can make you fitter in a very short period of time before surgery. But the very big trials that are currently ongoing are exploiting the window of opportunity that goes with having neoadjuvant chemotherapy in particular before major cancer surgery. And in that window, which results in inevitable delay to surgery because you hope you're shrinking the tumour, you have an intense exercise program. So those trials, the pilot results from them look great. They look very, very encouraging. But those big trials are ongoing. Many of them led by Denny Levitt, Mike Grocott, the group.
That would be great for my cancer center.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, that's what, Elena, I was going to ask you. So you're working now after you've done this fellowship.
Yes.
So how has what you took away from, your experience at Duke affecting your practice now? Are you actually, are you doing mostly anesthesia? Are you kind of in the whole perioperative space? Like what does that look like?
I'm in the whole space. It's a unique place to practice because the patients aren't coming right off the street for a workup. They're being worked up by the hematologists, oncologists, and the surgeons. So there's already kind of a team-based approach on these patients. Some of them are rushed through because it is cancer surgery. So I think the shared decision-making outlook I got from the perioperative medicine fellowship is really important here, because everyone hears the word cancer and they just want to cut it out, and that's the next step, and you kind of can pre-op them and just stall the process a little bit and let them really think about what they want from their results, a year out, and see if they're really fit for those types of surgeries, because they're large surgeries. And it's also unique just because I think it's just nice to work at a place where everyone is basically humbled. There's a lot of sick patients. It's hard to walk into the hospital and have a bad day when you see that all around you.
Yeah. How's your experience? Because, obviously I would assume that you're the only one that's been trained in perioperative medicine, specifically. How is that filtering into your relationship and I guess your colleagues' practice? Do you have a lot of conversation about that? Or
we do. And they ask me, I do get questions from my colleagues about what I think. Not so much just about the pre-op process, but if we're doing any protocols, trying to do opioid-reduced pathways in some of our bigger surgeries. Even though these patients are cancer patients, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all going to be on long-term pain medications if the surgery is curative. So I get a lot of consults about that, as well as how to work with the surgeons for that timeline, like I spoke about. It's a fine dance with trying to optimize patients that often have other comorbidities, and they have cancer, and and trying to convince them that the urgency of the surgery, their outcomes might be better if we wait a little bit and actually prime them up for it, which the CPET, coming back to the CPET, would be something that huge that we could do.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's all very encouraging, because even some of the preliminary results that signals are strengthening now is that you accelerate tumour shrinkage. And there's some animal work that supports that observation in humans, that if you're doing structured, intense exercise programs, which are best supervised and delivered in a group environment, that you accelerate the tumour shrinkage prior to surgery. That would be fantastic if that plays out.
I mean, the literature that they presented, I agree. I'm actually having John Whittle come down to talk in the spring to the institution to try and kind of put that bug in their ear. So
that's great.
That's is the next advancement in cancer care. So
So I couldn't help giggling a little bit in the room earlier on. It sounds as though although I'm a big fan of North America knocking some of the healthcare decisions here.
They should say a lot about the UK embracing
the rationale for North America not embracing cardiopulmonary exercise testing, which is the gold standard test.
You took about 5 pictures of that slide.
Well, apparently it's resources, expertise, and the cost. So the flip side of that is it seems as though in the United States of America you don't have any money or experts. Is that?
But we spend more than any healthcare system in the country.
In the world, that's what that says.
The gold standard test, but we can't put any resource expertise or.
I don't know what they're getting at there.
Well, 2 things that I thought was interesting about that. First of all, they talk about people say that the 6-minute walk test can be a surrogate for CPET, or at least however that works. But those still take resources, expertise, and
I think there's an assumption. I'm always banging on about this. There's an assumption that the 6-minute walk test is somehow free.
Yeah, I've heard you say this several times.
And having tried to get it introduced in the past, it's a significant chunk of real estate you have to find. I mean, it might be different in some of the very palatial hospitals I visited in the USA where the corridors are bigger than our hospitals.
Right.
But to find enough space to do a 6-minute walk test in your busy outpatient department turned out to be impossible for us. There was nowhere to shut off to allow the people to go up and down. And you do need equipment and someone has to do it. It's just nobody seems to have worked out the cost of doing it. So the default assumption is that it's free. But we don't have to worry about that anymore because although there's a paper in the BJA from the MET study that says that the 6-minute walk test is equivalent to CPET for predicting disability-free 1-year survival, CPET tests in the UK are not done to predict disability-free 1-year survival.
They're not.
They're done to see the risk of surgery in the broadest sense, and who's going to develop major complications. Mm-hmm. And I think what we got from the presentations today from the lead author of METS was not only is cardiopulmonary exercise testing independently clearly the best predictor of major complications, the 6-minute walk test, and I think that information's in press at the moment, is not for complications. So,
and it's not done that frequently. Most of the times it's a self-reported interview by the patient.
There seems to be this push to say, go for the 6-minute walk test because someone thinks that it's cheap and easy.
Yeah.
Whereas now, my interpretation of results is, that doesn't seem to be the route to pursue. You may not go with the CPET test. You may stick with an objective questionnaire like Duke Activity Status Index.
Yeah.
But I think if you do want to do objective exercise testing, the gold standard, as it says, is cardiopulmonary exercise testing.
One thing I also thought was interesting was the fact that, and am I right when they said that it's cheaper to do, or just as cheap to do CPET once you have it as it is to do echoes, and we do echoes all day long? Is that right?
Was a throwaway comment in the session, which seemed as though it was well founded and thought through, that the CPET test was less expensive than booking an echo in the institution from the presenter who was presenting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the business cases that we commonly put together in the UK, is we won't do those tests that are not helpful, but we will do this test instead, and this test is cheaper than those tests that aren't helpful, if you see what I mean. So once you eliminate unnecessary stress echoes or treadmill tests or lung function tests, or just cross them all off, and just do the CPET test. If you just do that, then you've got your value proposition.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
I'm not saying it's a done deal.
No.
But I'm very, very encouraged that the METS trial, when fully and clearly presented, appears to support the direction of travel that we've taken in the UK for a long time now.
I hope that it keeps... The word keeps going here in the U.S.
We'll see.
We'll be slow adopters. It takes 20, 30 years to get to...
adoption, full adoption.
Well, having been exposed, it's a loaded question. Did you think it made intuitive sense and it was pretty cool overall?
Yes, I think you can get so much information from the CPET test itself. And it's, relatively low risk. And if a patient's going to have a surgery, that's a similar risk to doing a CPET exercise testing. It just gives us so much more information than any of the tests we currently do. A resting echo only gives you so much,
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, we should be fair, there are a number of different cardiopulmonary exercise training courses available around the world, which are less in the perioperative space. POETS, which has been referred to, that we'll put the link in the show notes, is the UK-led, which I think it's matured most, we believe, in the UK, even though the idea came from Australia, and the initial training was in the west coast of the USA, where it was used by pulmonary evaluations. You can go on the POETS course to get trained up, which is run relatively frequently. It always sells out, but that's a very good place to go for it. And as we said, there are now introductions to CPET, and soon we'll be running the first full POETS-led CPET courses in the USA. Just go to the EBPOM, ebpom.org website to find all of that.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, Elena, thank you so much for sitting down with us. I'm so glad to catch up with you. And maybe next year after, didn't you say you're moving next year? Probably?
We'll see. It's always up in the air.
See where you land, but wherever you do land, I'm sure you'll do wonderful there and take everything that you've learned in your fellowship and maybe start a CPET clinic there too.
Yeah, I didn't ask you came with your husband to our meeting on the west coast of Ireland. Was that?
Oh, yes, we did. Dingle.
I
highly recommend anyone that needs some CME credit or just any interest in surgery or perioperative medicine to get themselves out there, because it is just beautiful and a great time of year.
Yeah.
And your husband's an orthopedic surgeon. He looked like he was really enjoying all of it, not only the social side of it, but the meeting.
Despite the orthopedic surgery roasts that happen daily, there are a specialty that's pretty in tune with the outcomes and the workup.
For sure.
So he enjoyed every part. I would say the surgeons would have a great deal to learn from it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's funny. You said the roast. Poor orthopedic surgeons. Well, we love you. Anyway. Well, Elena, again, thank you so much for sitting down with us, and hope to catch up with you soon.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers.
TopMed Talk.
Nate Majerison here. Thanks for listening to TopMed Talk. Now, before we let you go, it's important that we remind you to subscribe to TopMed Talk. That way you'll never, ever miss another episode. Also, if we could encourage you to join us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pretty much every single social media platform, we're there. Join us. And finally, check out TopMedTalk.com. If you go to our website, you can subscribe to email updates. That way we can always tell you where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing, and how you can join us. TopMedTalk.com, and click on the section marked email updates. Finally, TopMed Talk is proud to act as the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine. We'd love you to find out more about them as well. ebpom.org is their website. That's ebpom.org. And if you go to ebpom.org/meetings, you can find out about some of the wonderful meetings that we attend and cover across the year here on TopMed Talk. That's ebpom.org/meetings.